Storm had already swallowed the horizon when Sarah stumbled through the fields, her hair clinging to her face, her boots caked with mud. Her breaths came sharp and uneven, the kind that carried not just exhaustion but something heavier: fear, sorrow, the invisible chains that choke a spirit long before the body gives way. She wasn't running from the storm outside. No, she had lived with a different kind of storm for years. This one, the thunder and lightning tearing across the ranch sky, felt almost merciful compared to the memories she carried. She pressed her arms tight against her chest, shaking as she whispered to herself, "Don't let anyone close, don't let anyone touch, it's safer this way." It was then she saw him. Jacob Miller, the rancher whose land stretched for miles, whose name carried a quiet respect in town, was out near the fence line trying to bring his horses to shelter. He was a big man, broad-shouldered and weathered from years beneath the sun, but there was something disarming in the gentleness with which he coaxed the skittish mare toward safety. Sarah stopped, her breath catching. She hadn't spoken to anyone in days, hadn't dared. But Jacob noticed her. His eyes met hers, steady, kind, and unbearably patient. He didn't ask questions. He just tipped his hat, as if acknowledging not just her presence, but her pain. The storm broke harder. Sarah sank to her knees, unable to hold back the sobs any longer. She buried her face in her hands, shaking. The memories clawed their way up: rough voices, nights when she had no say, the way trust had been stripped from her one unwelcome hand at a time. "Don't touch me there," she wept into the earth, her voice cracking under the weight of years. Jacob didn't move closer. He stood still, hands lowered, hat pulled against the rain. He had heard enough in that broken whisper to understand more than most would. Slowly, he crouched down a few feet away, keeping the distance sacred, as if her pain had drawn a circle around her that no one should cross without permission. His voice was low, steady, the kind you trust to guide you through the dark. "Nobody's gonna touch you, ma'am. Not here. Not while I'm standin'. Sarah lifted her face just enough to glimpse him through wet lashes. He wasn't pitying her. He wasn't pressing her for explanations. He was simply present, his voice an anchor in the storm. Something in her chest cracked, the faintest light pushing against years of shadows. For the first time in what felt like forever, she didn't feel entirely alone. But then it happened. Jacob, steady as he seemed, swayed. His strong frame crumpled, and he collapsed into the mud. Sarah's heart lurched. She scrambled forward instinctively, the fear of touching and being touched momentarily drowned by concern. "Jacob," she cried, shaking despite herself. His lips were pale, his breaths shallow. He had been pushing through the storm longer than she realized, working with a fever he hadn't spoken of, a weariness he had carried in silence. Her hands hovered above him, trembling. To touch was to remember. To touch was to risk breaking open every wound she had buried. But here was this man who had seen her pain without prying, who had given her dignity when she had none left, lying helpless before her. The choice burned through her fear. She laid her hand on his shoulder, firm despite the shaking. And in that moment, something shifted. The touch did not shatter her. It didn't undo her. Instead, it tethered her to something beyond fear, a sense of purpose, of shared humanity. She had been the one needing saving, yet here was the chance to save another. With every ounce of courage she had left, Sarah dragged Jacob toward the barn, calling out for help though the storm swallowed most of her cries. She found strength she didn't know she had, strength born not of desperation but of compassion. Inside, she laid him near the straw, covering him with blankets she found. His fever was high. She knew he needed care, and she couldn't do it alone. For the first time in years, she reached for the phone on the wall of the barn and called the town doctor. Her voice shook, but she spoke clearly. "It's Jacob Miller. He needs help, please come quick." The hours that followed tested her resolve. She stayed by his side, dabbing his forehead with water, whispering words she didn't think she had in her. "Hold on. Please. You've done too much good to leave like this." As the fever raged, she felt the storm within herself quiet in an unfamiliar way. Each act of care, each moment she chose to stay rather than run, became a brick laid in the foundation of healing she never thought possible. By morning, Jacob stirred. His eyes opened slowly, finding hers. Weak as he was, he managed a faint smile. "Didn't think I'd get my angel in the middle of a thunderstorm," he rasped. Sarah's tears fell freely, but they were different this time, not just of pain, but of release. "Don't say that," she whispered, shaking her head, though her lips curved in the smallest, truest smile she had felt in years. Jacob reached out, stopping short just before her hand, letting the choice remain hers. She took a deep breath, then closed the distance herself, resting her palm against his weathered fingers. For the first time, touch felt safe. For the first time, it didn't hurt. Days passed, and Jacob recovered slowly. But in those days, something far greater healed between them. Sarah began to speak not of everything at once, but piece by piece, in the way a soul mends not with force but with patience. Jacob never pushed, never demanded. He listened. He let silence be enough when silence was all she had. One evening, sitting on the porch as the sun painted the ranch gold, Sarah looked at him and said softly, "That night, when I said, 'Don't touch me there,' it wasn't just about a place on my body. It was about my soul. I thought no one could reach me without breaking me. But you did, Jacob. You reached me without even laying a hand." He tipped his hat, eyes glistening. "Sometimes, darlin', the best way to hold someone is to give them the space to find their own way back." And so she did. With Jacob's quiet strength, Sarah began to rebuild her trust in the world, one day at a time. She found work helping around the ranch, her hands steadying where once they trembled. She laughed again, though it surprised her each time. And in the wide open fields beneath the endless sky, she discovered that freedom didn't mean running from everything. Sometimes, freedom meant choosing to stand where kindness and patience made the world safe again. Years later, Sarah would look back on that night not as the night she broke, but the night she began again. And she would tell anyone who asked that sometimes, the most powerful touch isn't a hand at all, it's compassion, offered without demand, love given without taking, hope extended in silence. The storm had come, but it had also passed. What remained was not the fear, not the collapse, but the rising that followed, the reminder that even the heaviest wounds can find healing, not through force, but through gentleness, patience, and the unshakable power of kindness. Because in the end, humanity's greatest gift is not in what we take, but in how we give each other back the courage to live again.